Good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas Eve. If that's something that you say, it didn't sound natural coming out of my mouth, but it is a Christmas Eve edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Huh? Yeah,
that's because you're a Jew.
That did not sound natural, but yes, this is a Christmas Eve edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION. It is snowing in New York City right now. It feels like Christmas Eve over here. Colby, I'm not sure about your area, but it is definitely holiday vibes outside right now, and not very holiday vibes last night around the NHL with all the action and drama and just different storylines that there were across the league last night.
Yeah, there's certainly not a lack of things to talk about. 13-game slate. Good games, too. Remember, maybe like a week ago, we were talking about how many games there were being played, and they were a bunch of weird matchups, good teams versus bad teams. And the one thing that you always kind of wonder about with your team is, like, are they already on Christmas break? Right? I mean, you remember those last game or two leading up to the breaks around holidays were always kind of a little bit difficult to, dial in and get ready. But look, these guys make millions of dollars and they're pros. And so you don't really have a choice but to make sure that you show up. A lot of the storylines coming out of last night, Johnny, were not necessarily hockey. Like, I mean, they're all hockey related,
but they're like drama, like hockey drama.
Yeah. I mean, the Patrick Laine situation and his comments, the Kucherov hit on Tkachuk. Buffalo finally wins a game. The Devils just
Chris Kreider scratched.
Yeah. That again, I don't like. Maybe
I don't even want to talk about them.
Maybe we'll talk about them at the end, but I mean, you just have to appreciate the fact that the Devils came in and, they had a wounded animal and they certainly didn't let that wounded animal up. So, but I think the thing that probably caught my attention the most yesterday was the Patrick Laine situation. And it actually pissed me off. Like, it pissed me off for Columbus fans. It pissed me off for Columbus players. Like, it was a big sort of head shaking situation for me of like almost disbelief.
In the sense that he's kind of going at the Columbus players.
Like, I mean, not just the players, the organization. I mean, first off, if you're going to make if you're going to make those comments, at least, because he was asked a follow-up question after his comments, and he kind of was like, "I'll let you decide." And I don't know, why don't we start by reading the comments and showing sort of the media that we have to, back this up. Vic, maybe you could start rolling some of that stuff in. But here was the quote from
Laine. This is
Laine before the game. And I'll read it for those of you who are just audio or maybe in transit today. When I signed a contract here, I made it clear that I loved being here, that it was going great, and I didn't want to leave. Obviously, things happened, and that was kind of it for me. I feel like we were just doing the same thing year after year. I was tired of losing and just giving up when it's December to start focusing on next year. I'm not going to do that. It's frustrating as a player when you're trying to win, and some people are, not like that. They're a little too satisfied and too comfortable where they're at. It wasn't really a fit for me anymore. But here in Montreal, it doesn't matter if we're winning or losing. We're always trying our best. That's what it felt like. That's what I felt about it in Columbus. I mean, that to me is such a chicken shit and such a tone-deaf thing to say for a guy who has a reputation for being a quitter, a guy who has a reputation for not always going 100%, a guy who has a reputation for needing their hand held by every coach and every player around him. I mean, what player has been treated with kid gloves more than him over the last number of years? And listen, I get it. Mental health, some people buy into that more than others. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, just being honest. Like, I think mental health is important. But I also think that some people use it as a crutch, when they're not playing well, when they're not doing well, instead of trying to battle through it. So, these comments, they're loser comments, like big loser comments.
Do you know what the question was? I don't know what the reporter asked him to, I guess, warrant a response like that. I'm not sure if anyone else in the chat knows the question, but sometimes it could be an answer to a question that led him in that direction. And I'm not gonna, give Laine
Well, I mean, but you still listen, he said what was on his mind.
There is no clip, Joe, by the way, so we don't know what the tone was like. There's no clip.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Aaron Portzline who reported on it.
And again, I'm not defending Laine. I'm just trying to add some more context because
this is a guy who never played more than 56 games in his career in Columbus. 45, 56, 55, 18, 10. I mean, I'm sorry. These are loser comments to me.
Yeah.
And I know guys who have played with Patrik Laine. And his reputation is that everybody always has to hold his hand, like everybody. And so, I mean, you saw how Columbus felt about it. They ran him the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
They actually took him out of the game. He didn't finish the game, which is not really that shocking to anybody. And then after the game, Zach Werenski, had a lot to say about it. And I couldn't agree more with him. But I don't know, Johnny, I know you're not usually one to take as hard of a line on something, but you tell me, if you're a Columbus Blue Jacket player, how do you feel after babying this guy and holding this guy's hand and supporting him for 5 seasons or whatever it was, where he couldn't even show up to the rink every day?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's bullshit, to be honest. If I was a player in Columbus, I'd feel the same way as Zach Werenski did. And I think Zach Werenski's comments were warranted, and I think he said everything the right way. I wonder what a guy, and I saw it in the chat, what a guy like Boone Jenner would have said too. If he was available to the media, he's a captain of that team for a while now. But I also think comments like that from Laine, granted, I didn't know what the question was, but when you turn the page and Laine has become such a good story in the NHL and an easy guy to root for this year, to then go back and go at former teammates when it seems like that page has been flipped, the whole thing just seems a little bit unnecessary to me. You're not there anymore. Just move on. You don't have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Is condescending the word? I don't know if that would be the right word in the situation, but
Probably not.
But listen, we do have Jeff Marek here. He's been waiting patiently. And before we bring on Jeff, I just want to give a word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture in barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 50% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. Thank you, Sean. Vindictive was the word I was thinking of. And we do have the comments from Werenski. Vic, if you want to play that quick before we let Jeff comment on it.
It's unfortunate. I think as guys here and a guy that's been here, we're nothing but good teammates to him, nothing but good friends to him. And for him to bash us like that, I think it's just unacceptable. I hope he's all right with whatever he's dealing with tonight, but he didn't finish the game. A couple hits, and I don't know what happened, but it's unfortunate. We were nothing but good teammates to him. For him to come in here and say that's definitely not happy about it, and none of us in this room are happy about it, and I think that speaks more about him than it does us.
Jeff, what word would you use to describe Patrik Laine's comments, since I was very off on my vocabulary?
Condescending.
Oh yeah,
I think they were condescending.
Okay,
for sure. Condescending, biting. Maybe there's some honesty in there too. There's a couple of things here, because I want to be big picture guy on this one in a couple of seconds. But I mean, if that's how Laine feels, that's how Laine feels. Columbus doesn't have to agree with it. That's the way he felt. Okay, that's the way he felt, and he moves on. But I look at this one, when I saw the comments and then watched the game last night and saw everybody going at him, and Dante Fabro catches him, and Voronkov is on him, and the whole team is going out of their way to get a lick in on Patrik Laine. I looked at this and then heard Werenski's comments you guys just played. What a gift. What a gift to that dressing room. You've given that team an issue. Now, the issue is everybody against Laine, But you guys played. When you give players an issue like that, when you give players something to rally around, it's one thing for players themselves to say that within the room, we go down too light, we lose too easy, like it's one thing for players to say that amongst themselves. But when someone who is there, who then becomes an outsider, uses the rear view mirror to comment, all of a sudden your spine stiffens and you start to prickle up a little bit. And you heard it, like Matthew Olivier interviewed by Mark Denis last night. He's like, it seems like you're targeting Patrick Laine out there in this game. And his answer is no comment.
Yeah.
Like it was a gift. Like that's what it was. I don't think Patrick Laine intended it as a gift, but he handed the Columbus Blue Jackets a gift. And now that room has something to rally around. I didn't play in the NHL. Am I on base or off base on that one? I guess that's my thoughts on it.
Well, what I will say too, to add to that, Jeff, is that I don't like what Laine said, but I love that he said it. I think
I agree.
It is good to have honesty come from players like that. And, we always talk about it, and I know you talk about it a lot, like that we beg for NHL players to come out and have personality and speak open and honestly. And even if we don't like what they're saying, at least they're doing it, right? Like this gave us not only something to talk about, it gave us a night of entertainment. I didn't get to watch the game because I was at the Islander Buffalo game, which is another story in itself. But I think that it's almost, I don't want to say it's necessarily like a positive thing, but it just creates a little bit more storylines, more drama, and that in turn is good.
Players will hate it. I want to defer to you, Colby. Players will hate it. Fans will love it. Overall, it's good because anytime I think that any sport, and basketball has done such a marvelous job of this, maybe to the extreme, but anytime you can lean into a soap opera. Hey, Vancouver, if you're up early and watching the show right now, we're talking about you. I think it's ultimately a good thing, but I'll defer to Colby on this one.
Wait, did you guys see JT Miller pass the puck to Pettersson last night and he scored? And he scored. He passed him the puck and everything. That they need to do more of that in Vancouver, because I'll tell you what, those guys can fight every day when they leave the rink, but as they can pass the puck to each other on the power play and they can get saves from Thatcher Demko, it's a whole different story out there in Vancouver.
Just a quick aside, do you think I think all of this is Rick Tocchet playing puppeteer? I know we're getting off the Columbus page here, but
that's
it's
all
such
right.
a juicy story. Like it seems like this was Rick Tocchet playing puppeteer. He did a couple of things in that presser. He said, "How come you didn't ask for these two guys? How come you asked for me? Go ask them," as if he's drawing them out. And then he split them up on the power play as if to say, do you know how stupid this looks? Do you know how dumb this looks, guys? Like he went out of his way to embarrass them into coming out and saying, oh, no, there's nothing to see here, even though the coaches talked about it, the former coaches talked about it, and the captain has talked about it, as Irf talked about on your show yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in Rick Tocchet's day, he probably saw everything as a player.
He played for Mike Keenan.
And
he played for Mike Keenan.
And he
like
played
the
with
things that he's seen.
Yeah. Some of the biggest superstars who have ever walked the earth in this game. So, he's seen personality feuds before. He has his own kids, like, these things. So, no, I mean, I think that, Johnny, you definitely make a good point. It's always good for us when a player says something that's not on the straight and narrow for what we're used to in hockey, but it still doesn't mean we're not going to comment and we can have an opinion. Just like, listen, he gets to have his own opinion and he gets to share it. And then 9 a.m. the next morning, we get to have our opinion and we get to share it. And I just think, look, like, you don't throw stones from a glass house is sort of my opinion here. This would not have sat well with me. I like the way Columbus responded. I'm glad they took offense to it. I'm glad they went for him. And here's the other thing. And we have been talking about this since last year. We begged last year, Jeff, all season, and you probably caught some of it, where we said the Columbus Blue Jackets is like one of the most underrated fan bases in the NHL. There's a reason Johnny Gaudreau wanted to go there with his big free agent ticket, and there is usually more to follow in those situations when one guy does it. And it's because of the way that the ownership and that organization treats their players. It's the way that the fan base shows up. And I do think they're an ownership group that would do anything to win. I think if you said, hey, you need to spend $25 million more and you have a chance to win the Stanley Cup this year, like that, like they'll be with Don Waddell, that team will get itself back into some serious contention at some point over the next 4 or 5 seasons, in my opinion. I think Waddell, is good at what he does.
I just want to say one thing quick. Sorry, go, Jeff.
No, Johnny, go. Your show.
Well, I was gonna just throw in this too because I saw this last night. Aaron Portzline, I guess a couple years ago, on Bishop and Friends, said after the 2019-20 season, believe he meant 2021, that a meeting with veteran players took place, Atkinson, Jones, Werenski, and Nyquist, where they basically came back with, you got to get Laine and Merzlikins out of here. And I don't remember that being a story, but I think that should be thrown into this conversation too, because, Columbus fans or people around this situation have said that, maybe Werenski and these guys weren't that good of a teammate to Patrik Laine.
Patrik Laine is one of the most fascinating players in the NHL. And in some ways, even though, and maybe this is why it works in Montreal, in some ways, and they are profoundly different players, but I'm going to bring up Alex Kovalev's name here. Now, they're, again, really different players, and we all know how Kovalev was loaded with skill, but he didn't bring it every single night. But when Kovalev did, he was the best player on the planet. When I used to do rinkside, and I do a lot of Montreal Canadiens games, I loved watching him in practice playing keep away. He couldn't touch the puck. He couldn't lift his stick. Like you couldn't do anything. It was. I always wanted to see Kovalev and Daniel Alfredsson play keep away because they were the two best, and Datsuk for that matter too. Those were the 3 best that I ever saw. But the thing about Kovalev was he would show up once every 3, 4, maybe 5 games, and when he did, you say to yourself, like, he's the best player on the ice. Wayne Gretzky would always say, like, this is the best player in the league. Like, it was remarkable, but he didn't bring it every single night. And that upsets fans. That certainly upsets teammates as well. And Laine has been accused of that previously in his career. Now, I know it always looks like big players are lazy out there because they are big and it takes a while to get the motor going. Matt Sundin used to be knocked for that all the time.
Just longer strides. So to your eye, it's like people have said James Van Riemsdyk doesn't skate hard, and then you look at what his heart rate monitor says after a game or after a summer practice, and it's like, wow, you were at your max heart rate for 40 straight minutes. Like, the guy's incredibly hardworking.
So the thing about, and I agree with you completely on that. I'm glad you brought up James Van Riemsdyk, one of my favorites. Even though right around you love him, like right around the net, like that guy in tight with that size, ridiculous. But the thing about Laine is, like, Laine needs to be put in a position where someone gets him the puck, right? And when you get him the puck, like, he'll score from distance. One of the hardest things to do as a scorer is score from distance. Bedard can do it, Matthews can do it, Patrik Laine can do it, and he has like one of the most. I always describe it not as hard, but as violent. Like, he has a violent shot. But a player like Laine relies on a lot of players around him getting the puck, get him the puck, and just shoot. Right? You guys have played with guys before that, aren't going to play fetch themselves, not going to go into the corners. The puck goes in the corner like a season ticket holder has to jump over the boards and throw it out before the player is going to go in there and get it. We've all seen these guys before. But you get the puck on his stick and magic happens. He's just not going to go and do that himself. And they tried so many different things with Laine. Even remember they experimented making him a center?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you look at the size and all that.
Get him more touches.
Get him more touches and all of that. And I think that's part of the frustration. I can understand that if I were a player, that would frustrate me. That I've got to do all of this. I've got to, my whole game's going to revolve around getting this guy the puck. He's going to take a couple of one-timers, score on a couple of these shots, and rocking a $7-8 million contract. Right. And I'm doing all the work here. He just has the shot. I understand the frustration, but in Montreal is a very, very specific fan base. It's the closest city we have in North America to a European city that appreciates things like artistic inspiration and understanding, that, it's not always going to be there for an artist, but when the muse arrives, the artist will emerge. And that's why they loved Kovalev. And I think that's why they love Patrik Laine as well. I know that some people are rolling their eyes listening to me talk about this, but it's the only thing I can explain this with this love affair with Patrik Laine. And listen, I fall for it too. I love it. Like, I really want this guy because he's such a different personality, whether the way he dresses. I remember his first interview when I was at Sportsnet with Darren Millard, and he's like lying on his floor doing the interview, holding his phone over his, like, he marches to the beat of a completely different drummer. I know that can rub players the wrong way. I just wish we had more personalities like that, but I do understand that can be some sandpaper in the room. I get it.
I mean, he's also come in and scored like right away too, which is probably another reason why they love him, right? Yeah.
What is going on the power?
And listen, I think we're at a point. I think we're at a point in our game and our culture where it's okay to be different, as long as once the whistle drops, as long as guys feel like you're trying to bring it. Nobody expects you to be perfect, but it's like, it's no different. Like, you put enough tickets in the bank with your teammates and your coaches, you get to take one out every once in a while. You get a bad night. You get the benefit of the doubt. I don't think the goofy out or whether you think it's goofy or stylish or whatever, like, I don't think the individuality that he brings now, I don't think it bothers anybody. I really don't. I think guys are pretty okay with it, especially when you got him on a young team with Cole Caulfield and some of these other sort of Showtime, rookie types of, or young, I know Caulfield's not a rookie, but young types of players, and Marty St. Louis and stuff like that. So I don't think any of that bothers anybody anymore. I think what bothers guys is when everybody's out in practice and I think everybody's, putting in effort, and you look at him and he's just floating around. Like, that is what will wear on guys. And then you get to a game and you watch him lose 2 or 3 wall battles early in a game in the defensive zone, and your line gets hemmed in for 40 seconds because you just don't feel like he's engaged, or you feel like he's playing at the end of his stick. That will wear guys down in the middle of the season, late in the season, when you're losing and the frustrations start happening. And that's kind of where I think his disconnect happens and has happened throughout his career.
Do you think that's Laine's fault? Like, a part of it is, like, certainly Laine's got to shoulder some of this, but again, like, the idea that fiddlers fiddle and dancers dance, like, that's not, like, put the puck on Laine's stick, it's going in the net. Like, it's the hardest thing to do in hockey is score goals. That's why whoever scores goals, rocks millions of dollars and sets their family and their family's family up for years. It's so hard. Is there essentially what I'm asking, is there a place anymore in the game for a one-dimensional player?
There is.
Because that's kind of what we're talking about. And then, so your expectation then should be lowered / different for someone like Patrik Laine. Like, you cannot expect Patrik Laine to battle like Sidney Crosby.
No, I get it.
Good point.
But
Good
if
point.
He's not going to be that guy.
But there are non-negotiables, Jeff. And I got to tell you, like, I even deal with that like with my junior players. It's like, yeah, we have a couple of guys that are our top guys that have 2 points per game, and they get a longer leash, but there are non-negotiables that I think are, it doesn't really matter how good you are, because for the most part, the stars understand the non-negotiables. Like Nikita Kucherov, and I think Kucherov is a little different because he fucking plays the game really hard. Like, I don't care what anybody says, he plays the game really hard. Go ahead.
I think I have like the prime example though, because that can be true. The one-dimensional player can be true. And listen, I was younger when this was going on. I was probably 14 to 19, 20 when this was happening. But I remember the conversation around Alexander Ovechkin. He's never going to win a cup unless he does all the other little things. And that 2018 Caps team, like, Ovechkin was playing defensively responsible, or responsibly defend, whatever. He was blocking shots. He always threw the body, but he was doing those little extra things to help his team win. Like, Laine can be one-dimensional, but that doesn't mean he's ever going to win. Yeah.
Ovechkin was never going to win the Selke, but yeah, he did. Like, I don't think we're going to try to turn him into, like, Yuri Lettinen or Marian Hossa here. Like, he was never that guy. But I know what you mean.
Younger, though, and hearing that be the narrative, like, Ovechkin has to buy in and do more of the little things if the Capitals are ever going to win the cup.
Yeah, well, we'll look. We'll see how this transpires, because we've all been goated before with Patrik Laine, where we're like, wow, and then give it time, and we usually get to
me every time. Every
And
time, Colby, I bite.
Like
I'm
I'm a
drag. I bite
skeptic.
every time.
Yeah, like I'm a skeptic. Like I was like, wow, this guy is scoring. This guy is scoring, but like we've seen it when it's good. How is it once he's not scoring? And how's his attitude and how's his effort and all of these types of things? And just to hit this question in the chat from Vilaho, who said Kucherov does not do those things Colby mentioned.
Oh
He
boy.
floats.
Oh boy.
Yeah, listen, he has his moments, but like Nikita Kucherov battles as hard as any player on the ice when there's a wall battle.
Yeah.
Like I mean, he's heavy on his stick. He battles along the walls. There are moments where he floats because he slows the game down like almost no other player, like Kane used to do in his prime of his career. Kucherov's really the only guy who can do it like that.
He also can float. He can get away with it because the offensive output is worth it.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on that one?
Yeah.
The idea of floating is fascinating to me. I always think of, Brett Hull had a great quote once. Brett Hull has had a lot of great quotes, but one really landed with me. And that is, he said, sometimes the best way to be in the play is to be out of the play. Like Brett Hull out there, somehow, he's one of the best goal scorers of all, somehow off in the offensive zone, he could still hide. And Adam Oates would do all the work and find him the puck. And then, he'd score 70 goals. I look at Kucherov, and to me, like I always look at the players that other players envy. And I just mentioned Marian Hossa a couple of seconds ago, and how guys felt about Hossa, and guys still marvel at Nikita Kucherov as well. I wonder if what we look at, or certainly someone like me who never played at that level, look at and say, oh, look, he's floating, is he's actually making himself invisible so he can suddenly appear and do damage. If you're always visible, is that always the right play? If you're always involved, is it the right play? Or is it smarter? And that Kucherov is a master of that. He's a magician. Datsyuk did this as well. You go and you get lost out there.
So it's a great point, and it's one of the goats who said it to you, right? I mean, Brett Hull is one of the all-timers, right? And so he's 100% right. It's the reason that somehow Alexander Ovechkin always scores from the same spot. He kind of finds a way to kind of lull you a little bit. And so,
yeah,
Jonny, before we move to the next topic, I just want to say one thing to our chat. And you may have a final word on this before we talk about Kucherov and Tkachuk. I want everybody in the chat to know something, because I've seen a lot of people sort of apologizing or clarifying things in the chat. To me personally, you do not ever have to say you're sorry. You do not ever have to clarify things. Look, you guys come with heat. I have no problem with you coming for my throat. Now, I may come back at you. We may have completely different versions of what our truth is or how we see things. But I'm just saying, never feel like in our chat you need to say you're sorry, or you need to say like no disrespect. There was one earlier where someone was like, no disrespect. I may challenge your point.
Yeah.
But that's the great spirit of this whole thing, is that
I'm the sensitive one, though. You have to apologize to me.
You can say you're sorry to Jonny, but listen, I promise you, I will never leave a show and think, oh, this person in our chat's being an asshole, or that like, we love it. I love when people come at my throat and want to battle and challenge me on anything that I have to say. So I just want you guys to all know that in our chat. Like, I have absolutely no problem with it. I love it. It actually fires me up, and it gets me going even more. So I want you all to know that. Never, ever feel like you have to do that in the chat. Come, be ready to fight. Come strong, and be opinionated. I'm opinionated. I can be an asshole. I get it. But I love when you guys come back at me about that. I love it. So, Jonny, except for you, you don't get to.
I have one rule in life.
We've all chosen to raise our heads above the crowd doing this. We have to expect that people will throw rocks.
Yeah, throw them.
I have one rule. For every 3 put downs, you give me 1 put up. That's how my life is.
Jonny, I've said like 4 nice things to you this week, and it's what? Wednesday? Tuesday?
What do you mean? I woke up this morning and you were like, you're not on the show today.
Yeah, well, I did, I knew we had Jeff coming on. I
Yeah.
thought maybe we would just keep you in the corner today.
But back to Kucherov. Also, we're gonna have a surprise guest on the show in about 15 minutes. Just want to let you guys know in the chat. We're working on that. But back to Kucherov. One of my favorite moments from this show last year. I don't remember the exact timing of the year, but Colby and I were talking about Kucherov, and we put out a clip where Colby, I think, what'd you say about Kucherov? Like he turned it on in 2019 and 20. He never played like that hard until Tampa won the cups and on their playoff runs. Like the previous years, he didn't play with that FU. That's like kind of what you said.
I think he became one of the hardest battlers in the NHL, and he added and I don't usually drop the F word on our show. It's not usually the word I'll use, but for Nikita Kucherov, he plays with a lot of fuck you in his game.
But you said he didn't have it earlier on, right?
I didn't feel like he had that level of heaviness and FU in his game. And then Brian Boyle told me,
I got a text from Brian Boyle at 2 a.m. after he saw the clip on like a Wednesday night. And he was like, you tell Colby that he's wrong. And I was like, come on the show tomorrow. Call him yourself.
Yeah, but he learned the hard way about how we get clipped on here and how we post provocative things. And then once he heard the whole thing that I said, he had a very different opinion about what I said. He heard a clipped version that Vic put out onto the World Wide Web just to stir people's emotions.
Yeah. Can I jump on that from really quickly? And this might be, I'm not sure where you guys are. I'm curious because you guys are younger than me. I don't know whether this is just an age thing with me, but as I get older, and this is Kucherov, and this was Kessler before, and this is Chris Pronger. The older I get, I really love being around grumpy people. That's why I get along great with Brian Burke. And Berkey and I didn't talk. There was a time, like I'll peek behind we didn't talk for 5 years. Like he hated me. It was bad. Like no conversation, nothing. I'd get the odd insulting, like really nasty insulting text, but that's about it. Like we didn't speak. But as I get older, like I love being around the guy who gets to the rink and complains about the coffee. I'm the guy that complains about, they changed the tape. Like, I don't like this. Like, I love being around grouchy people as often as I can. And
I'm so the opposite. I'm so the opposite.
I love it. I love it.
Colby, do you love it? Life more? Is that why? Like, does it make you appreciate life more?
No, I think they're funny. Honestly, I really find because I live I try to live my life like laughing as much as I can, or finding comedy, or finding like look, listen, like this is sports that we're in. Like, do you get this angry when you vote? I kind of live my life like that. Like it's Toys R Us, right? And that's why I love grouchy people, like especially grouchy people in hockey. Like I love talking to grouchy managers that hate everything. That like I'm waiting for them to like say that they hate oxygen. Like that's how grumpy they are. Like that's what I'm waiting for. I just love it. And I know it can be grating sometimes on a team, and I get it, but that's part of Kucherov. I love the grumpy guy. I love
John LaFontaine, my favorite coach I've ever had. Pat's older brother. I think they're 1 year apart. He was my coach in juniors for 2 years. And his first thing on day one was like, nothing more I hate than complainers. And his thing, if he heard us complaining, he'd punish us. And he had a lot of rules. One of his rules too was the F-bomb. If he heard you dropping the F-bomb, he never cursed. I never heard John LaFontaine curse.
Wow, it's like some Jerry York stuff right there.
Yeah, if he heard you drop an F-bomb, you had to vacuum the locker room that day after practice. I had a lot of vacuuming in my junior years. Also, like there was one day, I know we're getting off topic now, but like he was like John was old school and like didn't love the rap we were listening to. We listened to like a lot of Wiz Khalifa. There was one day in the locker room that I was on the music and I forgot which Wiz Khalifa song it was. John just walks into the locker room and goes, whose phone is this? I was like, that's mine, coach. He just took it for the day.
All right. So look, let's fire up our chat.
Don't look at the photos, coach.
This next topic is going to fire up the chat. And I think I haven't seen Jeremiah in the chat today, which makes me kind of sad. I do see Singsy back, which is great.
He just got a great gold member quote. We nothing more than people that are intolerant of other cultures and the Dutch.
We have Singsy back. But I saw immediately when this happened last night, Jeremiah was in our mentions right away. I mean, 30 seconds. Yeah. So, Vic, you found a way better look at the Kucherov Tkachuk play than is floating around X. So maybe you could fire that clip up, and then we can talk about how we feel about this play, because I don't know. Like, I didn't see this as everyone else felt like it was just this horrifying throw the book at him, give him a 100-game suspension type of play that, I'm reading online. People are ready to put him in jail. So, Jeff, let's start with you. What is your opinion on this play last night?
Brilliantly played by Matthew Tkachuk. I remember talking to a trainer once about, I got to be very specific because I don't want to give away who the player is. Let's just say from my Western Conference team. And there was an incident where a star player was down on the ice and was down for a long time. And the trainer went out, and this was like in the summer after, like, hey, do you remember this game where your guy was down for like a long, long time? And he starts laughing. And I said, what's so funny? He goes, you know what the conversation was? Because I'm always curious, like what the trainer is talking to the player about, what the nature of the conversation is. He said, I went down and checked on him, said, are you okay? And his first comment was, do we have the 5 yet? Because I'm not getting up until we have five.
That's smart. That's how you do it. That's smart.
Like, I'm not getting off the ice until I see a 5. And I looked at this and saw Matthew Tkachuk once again get the hook in the mouth, get the fish in the boat. Here we go. Get the fish in the boat. Like, this is, and again, like that, maybe this is why Matthew Tkachuk will always have a short leash with officials, and he's not going to get the break. But it looked like a hit. Like, it looked a lot worse than it actually was. Like, when I first saw it, because I was watching the game live. By the way, more back-to-backs, please. We please have, like, NHL, Steve Hatzenpetro schedule, please, more back-to-backs. Please, more. And I get it that it's Florida and Tampa, so there's a natural.
But by game 2, they're all ready to kill each other, which makes great television.
To destroy, like, give me a Friday. They used to do this all the time. Norris Division, like, it'd be like Minnesota, Detroit, or Chicago, Toronto, Friday, Saturday. And by Saturday rolls around for game 2, like, everyone's like, can't wait. Like, can we start the game early? Can we start the game? It could be a 5 o'clock puck drop or a 4 o'clock puck drop. We can't wait till 7. I looked at it initially and thought, wow, that's really bad. He's going to get rung up. Merry Christmas. You're getting a suspension. And then I looked at it again, like, no, he's trying for half body, and he catches like knee on the inner thigh. And then you see the Matthew Tkachuk full reaction where at the 3-second mark of the video, he's like, okay.
And then he's back in
5-second mark, we're looking for the shooter on the grassy knoll. I was like, okay, here we go again. He's Skinner rope in.
No, that definitely went over the grassy knoll.
I had no idea what that was.
The grassy knoll.
1963 Dallas.
Oh God.
I couldn't even.
Still doesn't know what you're talking about.
I couldn't even fake laugh. I just had to like.
Oh God. Well, and all right. So great context. And we were talking about this off the air before the show started. And I first off, I disagree with you all in the chat. I do not think any games are coming here of a suspension.
Yeah, Tkachuk came back and played.
I thought they made the call they made on the ice. I don't have a problem with it. But I do not believe any supplemental discipline is warranted. I think this was 75% hockey play, maybe 15%. Let's see if I can get him. And then a few percent sort of, oh shit, now I'm exposed too. Because he could have probably gotten hurt as well. The one thing I want to say to you all, be careful forming your opinions, watching things in slow motion. Okay? Be careful using slow-mo for your full opinion when you're looking at these types of hits. It will always make it a lot worse. You have to keep in mind how quick these guys are moving, and how quick 5 feet of ice is closed with 6'2", 6'3" men who skate 20 miles per hour, right? I don't know the equation behind it. And then the one other thing I'll say, Johnny, before we get your opinion on it here is when you get hit on the ice, whether it's a high stick, whether it's a hit from behind, whether your face hits the dasher boards and you're not sure, there's a brief moment where you are in a little bit of a panic as a player. It happened to me a couple of times in my career. Johnny, I know you took some high shots, and I know you took some brutal ones when you had a visor on in juniors as well, when you lost your teeth. Yeah. There's just this brief moment of confusion of like, oh shit, whether it's your knee, whether it's your hip, your foot, your ankle, whatever. And there is this like, oh shit, scary moment. And then you get up, and then hopefully you're okay when you get up and you're like, all right, I think this is just a bruise, or I got the wind knocked out of me, or you take your hands away from your face and the blood is nowhere near as bad as you thought it may be. That is a real thing, because remember, these things are happening in less than 1 second in real time. And that's the only context, Johnny, I wanted to pave before we get your opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think I agree with you in the sense that it was like 75% good hit, 25%, sticks his leg out. That's the problem, right? He leads with his knee.
Which is why he gets thrown out of the game.
The knee is the first thing that touches Matthew Tkachuk, and that's where I'm like, okay, that's a bad hit. But I don't think there was bad intent behind it, if that makes sense, right? Like Kucherov's trying to separate Tkachuk from the puck, and yes, he's trying to hit him pretty hard because Matthew Tkachuk, we all know who he is, and we all know what he does in a game. So Kucherov is trying to not injure him, but hurt him. We talk about that all the time, right?
Make him feel pain.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Kucherov, I'm not saying he's a saint here, and it's an unfortunate result. Like he's trying to, give it to Tkachuk a bit. Like Kucherov's not innocent in doing these kinds of things. I mean, I think back to the bubble when, if people can remember, JG Pajot had like a breakaway on an empty net, and Kucherov is literally chopping at the back of him. And I'm like, this guy's a fucking assoul.
That's how he plays.
Yeah, excuse my language, but like Kucherov can be a fucking asshole. I'm not gonna say he's not.
Yeah.
But in this instance, I don't think it was so bad. But the 5 in a game is warranted when you lead with your knee. I don't think they're just a suspension though.
Yeah. Okay. The chat.
I think he's an elite player. He's also a dirty player. He can also draw penalties, and he can also dive.
Yeah.
Like this, and I saw a player like this is what he's like one of the most skilled players in the game, and he's looking at Matthew Tkachuk, and this is Tampa in Florida. And he's saying, I got a chance to get a licking on this guy.
Yeah, 100, and I love it.
And I got a chance to get a licking on, and I'm taking it. I'm taking it. Merry Christmas. Season's beatings.
Sorry, I couldn't even hold this in, Jeff. I just I got too excited. We've I don't know if we necessarily compared the two, but we talked about how Kucherov and Panarin have like similar offensive styles, where they're not the fastest, not the strongest, but they're so shifty and elusive and pretty good east-west as opposed to north-south.
Yeah.
But
they
Panarin
create their own space.
But he doesn't have that extra fuck you that Kucherov has. And that's what's missing from his game.
Totally.
That's what's missing. Like everyone will want Kucherov on their team, but I think there are people who wouldn't want Panarin because of that little extra factor.
I remember asking Ryan Whitney when we used to work together at Sportsnet, when Whit did a couple of years with us. And my oldest had just started playing AAA. And I'm like, what's one bit of advice I can give to him? Like, Whit, like you played, obviously, like elite and NHL and everything. He said, always tell your kid, every time he's out there, make sure he's giving out bad information. Give out bad information, right?
I don't even know what that means.
Well, it means like have everybody on the ice think you're going to do one thing and then you do the other, like your body positioning, you say all of it. He said, this is what you have to master. Right. Adam Fox, great. Kucherov's like Datsuk was the master of it.
They
like give out bad
everybody
information
else on the ice, and then they do what they want.
Yes. And there's no one at giving out bad information better in the NHL for me than Nikita Kucherov. There's that play. You know that play where there's the pass from the point and Kucherov's winding up for the one-timer, and he ends up feeding it to the slot to Braden,
the bumper,
and everybody bites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then we all go, "Oh shit, we've seen that a million." Damn, I bit again. He is so. I still bite. I'm sure John Cooper does. Like I'm still like everybody. No one is better at just feeding bad information than Kucherov. He doesn't have to be the fastest.
Kane did it in his day. It's just. It's Adam Fox is one of the modern day guys who does this, even though he hasn't played all that well. So look, we just spent we kind of figured we'd go into today's show and we'd kind of not do game reviews, but talk about some of the games last night. But these guys are giving us things to talk about, and I am putting Nikita Kucherov, and like they're both rats in their own way. They're both so competitive. Like throw a puck in the corner, let those two go in. Like, the drill in practice, you turn the net in the corner and you throw a puck and it's just one-on-one. Did you imagine those two? Could you imagine those two just absolutely, it would be a murder scene between those two. And that's the thing that I don't think people give Nikita Kucherov enough credit for. I just don't. I think that he's got as much of that hatefulness. That's my puck in him as any player in the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm. That was not my mentality. I struggled in all those like 1-on-1, 2-on-2 battle drills. I wasn't a mean player, and that's why I couldn't get further in my career. I didn't have that mean streak, and I think you need that in the NHL if you want to be successful in every level of hockey. Like if I was talking to my own son or daughter right now, I'd say you got to play the game mean, or else you're not going to be able to make it out there. You can't.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Look, it's Christmas Eve. We got you to come on our show. The Sheet is live today at 3 p.m.
Yes, sir. Me and Wish.
All right. So you and Wish will be 3 p.m. today on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. You can catch Jeff there. That's every Tuesday. Greg comes on with you now, right? That's like a set in stone ordeal,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yeah.
All right.
So, Tuesdays.
Awesome. So if you haven't yet, I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Set an alert for Jeff's show. You get that everywhere where you get this. Jeff, Merry Christmas Eve. As Jonny said, as we started today's show, enjoy the time with your family. Are you guys live today and then taking a couple days off? What's the schedule?
So we're live today. We're off tomorrow, and then Boxing Day. I know that's a foreign concept, but December 26th, we're driving to Ottawa for World Juniors. So the show is going to be live from World Junior Fan Fest. Awesome. So that'll be a lot of fun. So a lot of Stephen Ellis and a lot of talk about what Canada's going to do with that BC line.
Okay, well, we're going to have to pay attention to that. We'll probably talk a little World Juniors on Monday, I think is probably when we'll start diving into that a little bit. So as always, we appreciate you giving us almost an hour of your time this morning, Jeff. And we will see you next week. Merry Christmas, pal.
Thanks, boys. Have a great holidays to all your listeners, all of your viewers, as I continue to try to steal everybody from your chat and get them to migrate to mine. That continues. We'll put some candy in the chat today, everybody who comes along. And by
just
that,
make sure
they
apologize to you in the chat.
No, I'm like Colby, man. Like, honestly, like bring. Take cheap shots, side swipes, low bridge, all of it. Like, I'll take all of it, man. I'm good with that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Teflon.
We appreciate
it. Be good.
All right.
So before we bring on our surprise guest, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Fountain Tire. You and your family's safety is important, and they'll treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle. If you need new tires or maybe your engine has a little rattle, stop into Fountain Tire and they'll sort you out. Check out Fountain Tire or make an appointment at fountaintire.com. And with that, we bring on a guest that we've been wanting to have on this show for a long time. I know Colby is a huge fan. I got to meet him at the Chicklets Cup in London this past summer, or maybe it was early fall. But welcome to the show, OG Instagram hockey player, Rob Schremp. Rob, how you doing?
What's shaking?
Well, Colby, I'm going to let you start this because I know you guys kind of go way back, right?
Well, I mean, look, Shrimpy maybe remembers it, maybe he doesn't, but like, so we had Shaddy on last week. We were talking about all those moments that are just so like they're core memories and core important moments in your hockey career. So, you know, my hockey career, sophomore year in high school is where things started to kind of take off for me, right? Like that was the year I got recruited to BU. I got recruited to the national team. I had OHL opportunities. Like it all kind of started to get real that year. But leading into my sophomore year in high school, I didn't know where I was going to play hockey. Like my dad was like, maybe juniors, maybe, maybe the OHL. Like we just didn't know. And I don't know how I ended up in Syracuse, New York one day. It was a weekend. It was before the season started. We get introduced to this guy. We went up to meet this character named Don Kernan, who's like the godfather of hockey in the Syracuse area, right? He's developed so many players. He's got NHLer after NHLer, like one of the greatest guys that I've ever been around in hockey. And he's like, all right, well, I've never seen you play. So you're going to go skate with this guy, Rob Schremp, and one other guy for like 30 minutes. And then we'll let you know if you can be on our junior team this year. And so that's what I did. And I'm like, holy shit, Rob Schremp. Like, I know who this guy is. I just watched him have 50 points in the World Juniors with his white skates and the whole thing. So 15 years old, I'm on the ice with Rob Schremp. I'm nervous as hell, just doing different drills, one-on-ones, passing the puck around. And then, Rob Schremp knighted me, and I played for Syracuse that year. and I had a good season for the Stars. And then I, things started going the right way for me. So you were important to me, man. Very important to me.
Now I do remember that. I think it was the Cicero Arena, the rink there. So yeah, Don was the man. He was great at finding players and finding guys like yourself, and he'd been doing that back since the early '90s. I remember Matt Murley and Tim Conley, their Terry D Quebec team there. I don't know if Murley was on that. I think it was Conley, JD Forrest. You remember that name?
Oh yeah.
My old roommate and good friend Freddie Meyer. Like, these guys were from Vermont.
Freddie Meyer, I remember that name.
Yeah.
Back in the, that there wasn't any tracking and stuff, right? Like, Don was just in so many rinks, he would find these talents, right? And he was great at bringing players into Syracuse, which for me being from this area was actually benefit too, right? Because growing up and coming through this system, it's important that you're on pretty good teams too, especially when you're playing that AAA tier and doing that circuit. You need players to play with. So Don always found a way to bring in guys like Colby, and it was great. And if you came to the Syracuse area, there was a couple things. You learned how to cycle the puck, you learned how to shoot the puck, high offense octane. And most of us didn't have a clue where our own zone was.
It all checks out, Shrimpy. That all checks out.
That's so funny.
And whether it was boys or girls, Don actually also coached the U19 girls team here in Syracuse through that course of time back then when I was growing up, and he won 3 national championships with the girls too. So he was just a really smart hockey guy. Knew how to coach, knew the game. And taught, certain things to players. So that's the same thing with the girls. They all knew how to cycle. They all knew how to shoot, and they were just absolutely sniping on team. So, it was great to meet you, Coach. It was awesome when you came around here. I do remember that like it was yesterday, but it was cool. And I think it's a good
years ago.
Yeah, it's a good group of people out here, and I think you got to know everybody, right? And it's just a warm kind of family-oriented sort of community here. And it's cool when outsiders like yourself get to come in and get that perspective.
I went to dinner with Don probably 2 years ago. He was down in the area. I talk to Huffer all the time still. Yeah. Hazy obviously is one of my best friends, that part of the hockey community is amazing. It really is.
I just ran into Hazy in Plymouth about a month ago.
Yeah.
And I had some friends that came over from Hong Kong. He skated with him. So he's a great dude. I love that kid.
He just so everybody knows, we're talking about Ryan Hayes. He played in Europe for most of his career, Boston College, played in the O. Now he's the assistant coach of the U.S. national team. So he's moved into the coaching portion, just to give a little bit of context, Johnny, as to who we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hate the Cicero area just personally because I was, for the New York State development camps, that's where we had to drive up. So my dad would drive me 5 or 6 hours up to Cicero. I wouldn't be able to do any pull-ups in the testing, and I'd be an alternate for the national camp 3 years in a row. So I hated the trip to Cicero. I never made it to national camp, so it's a long, dark memory for me. But one memory I do have is it's actually funny. Colby will appreciate this. Rob, I don't know if you'll appreciate it enough, but one of those state camps, Alex Tuck was my line mate. And I think I had 7 points in the first 3 games. But that Saturday night, it was my best friend who's the closest thing to a little brother's bar mitzvah. And I left the fucking camp to go to the bar mitzvah. And since that day, my dad's been saying for years, we fucked up. You could have made the camp that year. But yeah, that's one of my funnier hockey story moments. But Rob, just kind of catching up with you. I know we spoke a little bit in London, and we have a live chat that goes on during the show. I don't know if you can see that or not, but Singsy keeps saying hi to you. I know you probably met Singsy in London. He's a Chicklets chat legend. But what are you up to in hockey right now? Because I know you're back on Twitter. I see you tweeting. You're chirping the Rangers a bit, which I would appreciate. But what's going on?
Had to be said. Starting an advisory, hockey advisory, chess hockey advisory with so I've been doing that, working with players. I've been doing the development model since I retired, doing video and stuff, and it just kind of sort of transitioned into this space and giving players some guidance. And the hockey world is it's a pretty crazy place right now, and people are just need helpful information and honesty, I think. So I think with what we're up to, we're really trying to get players in the right place as far as playing first. For me to develop a player and then to turn that player into a turnkey player, so to speak, for one of the people in my network and my friends, it's super important versus just grabbing players and trying to, give random advice. And well, this game is hard. We all know it's hard. So I've kind of jumped into it again, naturally from doing the video stuff and doing the development model into people needing help with placement and that kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing. And a lot of on-ice stuff. I love the on-ice stuff, working with the shooting, the stuff that Donnie Kernan Jr., Colby, you remember him.
Oh yeah.
They'll talk about him almost in every podcast, where like he's actually the best person I've seen shoot a hockey puck in the world in my journey. Like that's NHL, KHL, all the leagues, right? And Donnie Kernan, I still remember that release he had on him. He had no palms in his gloves. There was no palms.
Really?
Stick out and the fingers would like dangle.
I hate that.
I remember it.
This sound of like the crack of the whip, and then those little fingers off his gloves would like dangle. But
yeah, I still remember you guys all used the square toe. That was that was part of it was I think it was like the
Getzlaf curve. I had that for 1 year.
It was pre-Getzlaf. It was
really?
It might have been Yzerman. I don't Lidstrom. Okay, I knew it was one. So are you back living you're back living in the States full time now?
I live in London, Ontario now.
Okay, so but you're in North America at least.
Yeah, so it's been good. I got the opportunity. I work business development for a biotech company, biotech ag. So my department, I'm in lead of rounding up the golf course department. I'm an avid golfer. I love golf, and it's just a natural fit that we have this product that works with golf courses and ag. And London, Ontario is a great place for that because it's full of golf courses and it's full of farms. So when I got this opportunity, they asked me to move to Ontario, and just with all that encompassing, right? There's all that opportunity with business, but also the hockey world. I love that.
Yeah. You're a celebrity in London too. I mean, that's reality.
Yeah, we did a lot of cool things there. And again, I had a lot of great memories there, a lot of great friendships. Spent 3 years there, my, core years, right? 17 to 19. And then even after when we retired, like even when we moved up to the pros, like we were all going back there till I was 25, 26 every summer, training together, golfing together and being in the community. So it's been great. And then, getting back with guys like Danny Savret, he's coaching the U16 London Junior Knights, the draft eligible kids, and doing great things. And, getting back with the London Knights, that's always fun, going to those games and helping the kids out during the week. So it's been great. I've actually really enjoyed that. Dylan Hunter's there, and Dale obviously still, and Rick Stedman, they're like, come out whenever you want kind of thing. And I love, there's this new kid up there in Montgomery. He looks sick. He came up from the USHL and he's just torching it. But I got a chance to get on the ice so much shooting. And that age group is so much fun, right? Like you just give a couple pointers and those kids are so competitive and so eager to get better. It takes them like 5-10 minutes of reps. And next thing you know, they've adopted what you're giving them.
Do they know who you are? Because, and honestly, because it moves me into really my next question. Like you were in the wrong era. Like, I mean, what you used to do was not basically accepted by mainstream hockey managers. Now everybody accepts it. It's part of our game. And that's why on our show, we've said this 50 times in the last years. You were the OG of this style, of the way some of these superstars play now. And everybody just shut the door and was like, nope, I'm not dealing with that Rob Schremp type of stuff. When now it's so much more celebrated in our game. And so like, do these kids, do they know who you are? Like, I'm not asking it like, but I think it's a fair question because
be cocky, Rob.
You're polarizing, but you didn't grow up in the YouTube generation. Like, there were no iPhones when you were playing in London. Like they hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love to see it now, honestly, to see that freedom come through, that creativity. That's what I found, right? Like I went searching in the game of hockey, and I found something really cool. And unfortunately at the time, to your point, Cole, I was there, and it makes it feel better when someone else says it, right? Because I felt it. I was there, and like this hot dog thing and like cocky, and it was like almost like such a negative back the other way. I'm like, why is this such a wicked flash? I'm like, I thought this was pretty talented.
It was ridiculous because we weren't training. Now every kid can pick the puck up on their stick and spin around. Like we weren't trained on that stuff. You were the only one who could do that back then.
Yeah. And that's what I just found, what I found in the game, honestly, when I was a young age, I found this airspace, the air, like using the air and in different ways. Like with sauce passes, like there's people that use sauce passes because they think it's cool. There's people use sauce passes because they saw someone at a high level do it. For me, like I saw the objectiveness and the timing of it while the puck was in the air with a certain pace on sauce pass, and you're timing it with a streaking player sort of thing, or using the air to escape all the, when defenders are coming at you with their sticks lunged, you could use the airspace. So that, plus then I started, playing lacrosse with it. I'm like, why not just use it up here? When this puck is up in the air, it's off my hip. Like, you can't poke check me.
Yeah.
If it's in front, and I never got a chance to speak that. I just got called a hot dog because I picked it up and was playing lacrosse with it. But I just found that uniqueness to the game. And I love that, that part. It was fun for me too. So now seeing it come this way, and even like the little stuff, like they're celebrating the warm-ups. That's when I used to do a lot of it, to be honest with you. In the warm-ups, I would do that for a couple of reasons. Was I showboating? Absolutely, I was showboating. I love, it's like a customer-based service, right? Like
you're in the entertainment business.
Entertainer.
Yeah.
Entertainment, right? So like people come to warm-ups, like, holy shit. People used to come watch the warm-ups because of me. And I would do it. But the next thing is like, that's actually warming up. I am warming up my hand-eye coordination, the touch of the feel, the puck. My hands are getting loose. So there's objectiveness to it. Objectiveness. Sorry, excuse me. But there's also that component of like, dude, kids at the glass, when they see me do that, we're like, their eyes would light up.
Yeah.
It's inspiring, right? And I remember being a young kid in Syracuse when the Syracuse Crunch came here when I was like probably 8 or 9, maybe around that age. That was so inspiring. Go to the games and someone would throw you a puck, and being at the glass and being that, I remember that feeling. So I used to try to do that for people. I mean, that started when I was like 14, right? Like I was doing tier 2 junior A, and it didn't stop when I went to junior in the OHL and then even in pro. It was always about that couple pieces of it. Again, that's what it took for me to warm up my stuff. And I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to hang on a negative, but like, as important as it was for the defensemen to go over and warm up their things, like sprinting and eating on the glass and roughing each other up in line, like that's what guys used to do. It was that important for me to warm my hands up because that was my piece of the game. But for some reason, mine was like, you're a loser.
Yeah. The things people used to say
sport.
about you were insane. Like you turn on Hockey Night in Canada when you were playing in Edmonton, and like you would be made out to be a villain. And it was, again, that's why I say, like, it's good that you have such a great attitude about it. Yeah. And now you're like really digging your feet into helping the next generation. But it never really sat well. And I mean, obviously, again, I had a bias towards you because of what you did for me in my career and the connection, the whole Syracuse thing, whether it was you, Merles, Tim Connolly. Like, I don't think people truly know how good Tim Connolly was because he dealt with so many injuries. I mean, this guy could have been a Hall of Famer if he was healthy. I mean, he was insane how good he was. But it never sat well with me. I remember you batted a goal out of the air when you were playing for the Islanders. You were on the back post. You knock one out of the air, and people were like upset about it. Caught it first. What are we upset about? This guy does something different, but that's hockey. You can't be different. But now it's starting to, like, it's okay to be a little different. Finally.
Yeah. I got to jump in though, Rob, if I can, just because we had a great question from Carousel Vertigo in our chat. Read my mind too. Like, you got these ideas and created these moves, but where did you get them from? Like, did you have someone that you watched? Like, was it Mike Legg doing the Michigan for the first time where you realized, like, hey, I can do this and maybe create my own little way of doing it?
Absolutely. I saw Mike Legg do it on ESPN. It was on one of the highlights. And at that time, I played a lot of lacrosse too in the summer. So it was one of those things coming back from lacrosse season into hockey season. And I saw that clip and I started doing it like he did it, tried to wrap the post. And then I just picked it up and started cradling it like a lacrosse stick. And it didn't fly. Like I did the same technique you would to cradle a ball. And I did it with a puck, and it literally stayed. And it was like one of those moments of like, holy shit. How did that happen? And then I got upset, right? And then it was like, that was cool. And then I remember I started that. So that was around 11. I think I was 11 years old. And it was at a good time too, because the next year I would go on, make a long story short, but there was a lot of, traffic going on because I was 11. I scored 1 million goals and I wanted to go play with the 83s and 84s. So jump from 11-year-olds. And then when I'd be 12, play with 14, 15-year-olds. But when I went to go to that tryout, I had gotten this thing dialed in like crazy. So when you're 12 years old and you're going out with a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds, you know how that is. Like boys, like there's that pecking order, and why is he coming out here? He's, you know, whatever, so and so. And I came out and like one of the first shifts, I pulled that off.
I probably wanted to fucking kill you.
No, they just couldn't believe it. They were like, "What the hell was that?" I'm like, "Oh, watch this." And I went down the next time. I went bar down. I called it. I go, "Watch this bar down." I turned very cocky. I get it, but
like the alley-oop scene in semi-pro though. Like everyone just like, what? He's floating.
So that moment brought me like a lot of respect from the kids. And then when the game from my teammates but then when the game started, I, you know, started playing well. It wasn't just like trick stuff. And that's one thing in the beginning when I got kind of like pegged as like this YouTube guy, which is fine. But I was also like, yeah, that's part of it. But I also have like 140 plus points in a pretty good league. Like I'm not just, and I was almost like, I don't want that tag because that tag back then came with like, it was a negative tone, right? Like I'm a one trick pony. I just picked the puck. I'm like, yeah, but again, like I can score. I make a lot of good plays, and I'm actually a power play specialist. So there's stuff here too. You know, some other accolades. But yeah, that was kind of like, it was Mike Legg inspired, and I hope he read it all the way through. Absolutely, every time I've spoken about it, I've said that. I saw that, and he'd even calling it the Michigan. It's not the Michigan. It's the Mike Legg. The university didn't do it. Mike Legg did. So
yeah. Michigan's so smooth though. It sounds so sick.
I know. It just rolls. Tagged it won't go because
that would have been Shrimpy if the CHL rules were to be what they are today. When you played, you would have gone from London right to Michigan for a year. The maize and blue would have fit you. Like they would have been accepting of who you are, like they did in London. London was like, I remember, like you were very well accepted the way that you played in London. It didn't help. I mean, it didn't hurt that you scored 1 million points a year, and you had those teams with Corey Perry and Savret, just to name a couple. But for sure, if I had to peg you as where you would have gone to college, if you did, Michigan would have been calling you for sure.
I got a chance to go down there. Eric Nystrom was down there. I went down there with Danny Richmond. He was playing with us. He left Michigan after his freshman year and joined us in London, and he took me down to a party down in Michigan at a frat party. I got to have the last beer. Eric Nystrom poured it for me like 4 a.m. It was like out of a movie. I passed out. And he was just pouring me a pint. It was a moment of honor. I really appreciate that. He grew up with my brother too, so we had some backdrop. But yeah, it was pretty. Michigan looked amazing. I went to Ann Arbor for a couple weeks when I was waiting for a trade from Mississauga to London. Play for the national team program. Ann Arbor is amazing, dude. I mean, growing up, I never really, Cobes, that I was never really going to college, but I did have Michigan and BC were like the two that I don't know why they were pressed in my brain. If I ever were to go to college, that's where I'd go. BC, I love the Eagle and their jersey, and just Boston's a beautiful city. And then the Michigan's with their buckets. I love those buckets.
Yeah.
And that up. It looks.
Do any of the players now reach out to you? Like Singsy made a comment in the chat. Trevor Zegras has a Rob Schremp poster on the ceiling of his bedroom. And while I think he's kidding, he might not be. Has any guy like that ever reached out to you or checked in with you before?
No, I don't. Yeah, I've not really been. I've been kind of all over the world for the last decade.
It's true.
So I haven't really been on the scene, so to speak, through my career playing. And then when I retired, and then all the other ways of hockey's taking me in different directions. But yeah, I haven't really been around to be in those conversations. I try not to. I'm happy for the new game. I'm happy for the new kids' talents. And for me, I don't want to make it like I don't pop my head in where I don't think it needs to go. So I'm happy for them. I want them to have all the, I know, it takes time and it takes some sort of courage to do this stuff and come out with it. Right. Cause you're like you said, kind of like programmed to be little robots. And when you want to go off and do something a little bit like that, elite, it takes courage, and these kids doing it. I'm happy for them. I think it's great. And I think it's also good in a time now where, content is king, and the league needs it. So, whether there's someone old school that's get that shit out of here. Well, the league's kind of going, we got a guy like this who showed us what, engaging with fans means, and what kind of, content and creation. And that stuff is really big in growing interest in the game. And I think it's awesome for these guys to be doing it. It's great for the league. I guess I wish I was born 15 years later, but that's not going to happen.
You're still young enough. We can make it happen now.
But
You can have
you
a
gonna put me
comeback.
through the paces? You gotta get me in shape, bud.
You can have a well, you can do like the NHL brings out people to like, I'm going to Winter Classic next week to do like a creator skate. Like you
Oh,
can do
sweet.
that stuff. Yeah, we can get you involved.
That's sick, dude. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
really cool. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Get the
You
white
got to
wheels.
start posting some content.
I think players, Shrimpy, like I think if like Zegras saw you doing that and Cole Caulfield and some of these guys, like I think you're right. Like you haven't been around. You just stopped playing like not that long ago. I mean, you played the Swedish league, the KHL, Swiss. Like you did a tour for sure. I think guys would probably be kind of excited to see you around. My guess, when you've done like anything with the Spit and Chicklets guys, I bet you some of those kids, some of those 22, 23 to 25-year-old NHLers are probably like, whoa, like they're probably almost intimidated, to reach out and say anything to you. Like, I know you're not that kind of guy, but I wouldn't doubt it or bet against the fact that it's probably like, whoa, that's Rob Schremp. Like I'd bet money on it actually.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a 96, Rob, and I'm from Long Island. So like when you were on the Islanders, I knew exactly who you were. I was a big fan. And like I was a little giddy when I met you at the Chicklets Cup. I don't know if I gave that vibe off, but it was cool. I think I asked Colby, like, do you know him personally? Because I'm gonna go introduce myself. And I don't even remember what Colby said, but
I don't think I responded.
Probably not. Yeah, he doesn't answer my text after 7 p.m. But it was nice. No, it was awesome meeting you. And I do gotta ask an Islander question because we are friendly with Nate Thompson, who came on the show like 2 or 3 weeks ago and told the story about how Billy Guerin got Chris Campoli fake arrested at a team party. And you were on those teams with those guys like Bill Guerin, Doug Waite, John Tavares, like Matt Molson, guys that were pretty big names here on Long Island when you were around. Like, do you have an Islander story that you love telling? I feel like that's also when your name became big in the NHL too. Like you were with Edmonton, but the Islanders really household name.
Dougie Waite was the man. I was there after Guerin was there, so we had like Dougie Waite, Brendan Witt, trying to think of the core veterans, Dwayne Rolson, those guys. But I don't have anything of that resort, like that source. Like I don't have anything at that level of comedy.
Could be on ice. Yeah, it could be on ice.
We had a young group and we didn't have, like that takes someone like Billy G. Like it would have been amazing to play with him. I've heard so many great, and they're all great stories. There's not like, I've never heard a bad story. It's always like ends with the end of the story is hilarious. Like something like part where like Campoli getting arrested. Like Billy was, I wish I got a chance to play for him with over at the Deutschland Cup. Him and Chris Chelios were our coach for that little tournament. So got a chance to share a couple barley beverages with him and chat and shoot the shit. So that was cool. But no, I don't really have anything for the, the crowd comedy with our time in the Long Island. We were all scrappy young guys, and we were kind of, one of those things where we got there is a lot of us were, kind of relationshiped up and just trying to stay focused and not, run around doing stupid shit.
Yeah. Well, Eric Wilson in the chat, Islander fan, said he'd love to hear what you thought of Tavares' game as a rookie.
I thought it was amazing how he came into the league. He came in hot and he's getting a point per game. He's playing well and that young enthusiasm and, kind of taking that enthusiasm from junior, bringing it right to the NHL. So it was great to see. And he had a great start. And then, sort of towards the middle of the year, there was a bit of time where he struggled. They figured him out and he had to play against every single top line and every single top D pair. So those kind of things are hard to carry on your shoulders as an 18-year-old. But the way he came out swinging in the beginning was awesome. I mean, everybody was excited for it, right? You're happy to see that. You wouldn't want it to be a scenario where the first overall comes in and, doesn't get a point for the first 20 games or something like that. He came in and produced. So it was a lot of pressure on him and kind of been a lot of pressure on that guy for a long time, his whole life almost.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, yeah. It's great to hear your input. He's an easy guy to root for. I mean, I grew up playing with him actually, and playing summer hockey with him forever. And he's, I love what he's doing this year, and I hope he doesn't take too much of a hometown discount for the Toronto Maple Leafs because I want him to stick it to Vic and Sharma in our chat, and see him continue to get paid. Shrimpy. It's Christmas Eve, so we don't want to keep you too long. The last thing I want to say, and I want to show, and we have a picture of it right here. Vic, I don't know if you can put the picture up, but like, do you still have some of the great whites? Because, these skates were pretty legendary. I mean, I remember you wearing them in the World Juniors. I feel like that was like the coming out party for the white skates, and then you carried them on into the NHL. Like just another feather in your cap for something that again was almost looked at as a negative, but now is something we're going back to the retro skates and we're going back to the white skates, and everybody's celebrating it now. And back then, I feel like people gave you shit about it.
Oh, big time, buddy. I used to get, started off when I was like 12 or 13. I got the Graph, Mike Hill from Graph. I was introduced to him by Mike Barnett from IMG, Gretzky's agent. I made a movie with them with Tim Connolly, blah, 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 like when I was 12. And then after that, we kind of got hooked up, and he hooked us up with Graph. I remember they gave us, my brother and I, you remember Tyler, and just gave us free wheels. And then when I was like 14, the rep was like, hey, would you want to wear the Great Whites? And I'm like, sound like just the sound of that, right? You're like, that's dramatic. I'm like, what is it? He's like, oh, love them. And there are these white wheels, and they were sick, man. And then some people were like, oh, those are, and then other people were like, you loser. Like, oh, I like that, you loser. I'm like, oh yeah, you loser. 6 points in a game, that's a loser, huh? All right. So I'm gonna wear them again. So I kept rocking. And then the World Juniors, it was cool. You could I started putting my number stitched in them. And again, that was like old school times they did that. I've seen some old pairs of skates where they had that. It was really cool. And then it went on the shelf. And then when I started doing it, it was like, I guess it was another one of those like, oh, you're so cocky, you put your number in your skates. I'm like, dude, this is sick.
Every pair has their numbers now.
Yeah.
Every pair in the NHL has numbers now.
Oh my God. It was like, you guys are giving me so much grief about that. And then it came to a point too where my game was in a place where all that outside noise, I would go out and I would dominate. I would go out and put up a massive amount of points and be like, yeah, how's the skates now? A little bit of that, and maybe if I could do it back over, I'd be a little bit more humble. But that is thing of like, oh, you loser. And then I would go score a hat trick and be like, oh yeah. Like I did that too much. I should have just shut up and walked on. Yeah. But I'm a competitive guy and I love to chirp. So when I throw those first darts, I will go shove a hat trick right down your throat and I'll walk right past you in these white boots. How you like me?
I love that.
Love it.
Yeah. I got to ask one more before we let you go. And this is not, a deep dive, hard hitting question, but when you talk to kids now and they ask you like, oh, what was it like playing the NHL? Like, what is your favorite story to tell?
Favorite story, first goal in the NHL, like that feeling and that feeling of getting there and that's what you dream about, that first goal, scoring the NHL and everything like that, like how hard it is to get there and how.
Who was it on? Tell us about the goal.
Tim Thomas. So Kyle Posto was coming up on play on my one-time side, and Oki was working the puck on the other side, and he made a great route. He was going up the wall towards the blue line. He faked the pass, bought the penalty killer, and then he turned to the left and he came downhill, and I was right there, perfect. And he went to pass it to me, and Mols was there, trying to like it's coming through the seam, and he like I think Mols was gonna go and like steal it, like hit it. And I'm like, no, I think this thing was coming, buddies. I was drooling. I knew it was going right on the bar with it. And someone got a stick on. I thought it was Mols, like trying to like tip it on net, because anything that came in front of the net, Mols was like a Venus flytrap. He just touch everything. He was great at it. But in this moment, I didn't want him touching this puck because it was coming to me. And he tipped it, and it goes directly lateral on net. And but it was bouncing. So I started like sneaking in, sniffing it out, and Mole started whacking. And next thing you know, the puck just sits there, and it's right behind the goal line. I'm like, oh my God. And I jump in there behind the goal line now, and I like tuck it in. And then the other thing was, it was perfect that way because I think Char was out there, and he had just turned around to like come and clear the net. And I like tucked it in, and I celebrate and turn to the right and get out of there so I don't get the ball. Char like, yeah, they start pumping. I go on. But
and this is in Boston or in New York?
This was in New York. Yeah, I was in the island.
Oh, sick.
And I was, I got picked up off waivers, like not too early, not too much before
Look
that.
But
oh yeah, there she is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, what a good moment.
Back right there. Yeah.
Who did you jump into there? Who was that?
Mark Streit.
Oh yeah, he was.
He didn't see that coming. He came for the hug, and I went right. I think I almost had my legs around his neck. And he's like, but no, that for me, it's important. Those kids, they understand. Like, I just say to them, like, there's things that you have to do in hockey that are non-negotiables. And as much as you, as your teenage boy, want to buck the system, I'll tell you that I hate to say it this way, but you will never have as much as I had. And I'll teach you exactly what's right, what's wrong. Yeah. So you're not going to break the system. I didn't break the system. I got shown like that you're not going to break the system. You're not going to, you're going to get in line. So there's some parts of it where you have to get in line, and they're non-negotiables. And things like attitude and, how you, perception is reality. So are you talking with your mom and dad in the lobby? Even though you're mad and upset about the game, you're yelling at your mom. Like, that's not right. Like, it's never going to be right. That's a perception. They're young kids. Like, I work with teenage kids, like 14 to 18. So it's that time to shape them. Probably the time in my life where I feel like I probably could have used that guidance, because that's that molding age, 14 to 18 is really important. How what kind of things you're taking from the game, and especially now with how much information is out there in front of us, what the kids are taking from it, right? What is actually cool, and while it's cool, it's also going to be acceptable for people in management or scouts that are watching you. The little things like that. So I think it's important that they get that message out.
It's amazing advice. I had a group of, I don't know, they're probably about 13-year-old kids this summer with the Atlantic District. And I don't know how it came up. They think someone asked me, who's your favorite ever defensive partner that you played with, like when you played through pro, and, and I said, John Michael Lyles. And not one kid in the room knew who John Michael Lyles was. I said, raise your hand if you know who that is. I asked them if they all knew who Swaggy P was, and every guy raised their hand. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but you've got one guy who played a career that now Cale Makar is breaking his records. Otherwise, he owned every record of the Colorado Avalanche defenseman and played in the Olympics and, played in an all-star game. And not one kid in that room knew who John Michael Lyles was. And every kid knew who Swaggy P was. And I felt that to be alarming because, like you said, both need to be that, like, it can't be all one way. It can't, because you're not going to break the system. Swaggy P never played a second in the NHL. Decent college player, played against Vermont. Yeah. He was a good, solid college player. Wasn't a superstar, wasn't an All-American, was a good college player. Like, and you can't take that away in a hockey school. Vermont was really, really had some good years when he was there, like, not taking any of that away from him. But it's scary if not one kid knows who John Michael Lyles is and everybody knows who the other guy is. I'm like, ooh, like that might be a little problematic.
Yeah, it's super. It's cool for Swaggy. It's cool for the game. Again, so where's this game going? It doesn't have to go down the way it's always gone, right? Down the same path. There's different, as a business for the league and for the game, there's different avenues, right? And the Swaggy P and, the Bell kid, Always Hockey, and these kind of guys, they are creating something cool in the game. I think it's great. And again, when we're sitting down with a player that's, okay, first of all, are you serious about hockey? And what are you willing to put into this first? And then again, the information, right? And like shaping that player. What is it? Say, ask questions. If you see Swaggy P on Instagram and you're curious, like, hey, is this actually working in the game? You can ask me. I'll tell you, yes, there's certain places you can use that. Here's when and how. So taking something from Swaggy, but then there's a guy like Lyles as well. Like, what did he do? He was a humble guy. He worked hard every single day.
Yeah. 900 games in the National League.
And he step out behind the net. He made the first pass, right?
Yeah.
All game.
He'd step out from the net and go, I'm going to beat 5 guys. Okay. So like, there's value in all these stories. You got to take the pieces of it. And let's say you have to be Lyles, but just take from that. And that's one thing Dan Ballsman told me, Disco. Learn one thing from each one of your teammates through your career. If you do that, it'll be something like, that's a blessing that I'm giving you. That's what my dad taught me. I did that through my career. That's what he's speaking to me now. And then when he told me, I started thinking about it. I started doing that. There's certain things guys do. I pick up on it. I always try to read and learn from different people. Not that I'm going to use it, but it's cool to see. And it's interesting to break it down and be curious about, other teammates' habits or other guys you see on the ice habits. That's another thing for young players now. It's like when you get out on the ice against a team and a player comes from the other side and they're sick, they're way above you. You don't go into a shell. You now have a new benchmark. If you're not that level of that player, you have a new benchmark. Go and next time I play that guy, I'm going to bury him. Next time I play that girl, I'm going to dominate him. That should be the mentality a little bit. So being a student of the game is super important. And that's, I don't know. I think I kind of went on a tangent there, but I love talking.
No, you're good. Yeah. I mean, to that point, like, my upbringing in hockey was much different. Like, I feel like listen, I wasn't always all hockey. I think I started taking hockey seriously when I was like 15 or 16. Like I played other sports and stuff, but when I got to college is when I feel like I really saw what hard work was. Like I always thought that I was doing the work to get to the next level, but then like when you get to the Division I level, you kind of see what these guys do and how much of freaks they are. And I wish I kind of knew that when I was a little bit younger. Whether it's diet or just even the little habits away from the rink that give you a better, even if it's a detail of like when you eat your pregame meal. Like in junior hockey, I ate my pregame meal at 3:30. I was playing the game 10 pounds heavier than I should have been probably. But that's a little detail that you just don't know.
Yeah.
So it's
you got to tinker around with, and that's the thing when you take the next step, the next level. For me, it was the first Edmonton Oilers training camp. I was like, holy shit, man. I went in there. Ethan Morrow was 6'3", 220 something, and was cleaning 315 pounds.
Yeah,
like it was nothing.
The cleans,
like, that will break
I never cleaned
body.
in my life till I got to college. I was like, oh fuck.
Not squats. He's cleaning 315. I'm like, oh my god.
That's
tree trunk leg. And again, I'm like, before that, I was like, I'm eating healthy. I was eating I would get like Subway chicken sandwich, grilled chicken sandwich. I thought it was healthy because it was on wheat instead of white. And I was like, I'm way off. I got to get dialed here because this is like, whew. So that was eye-opening. But then again, what do? You rise to the challenge, or do you shrink and shrivel and say, oh, it's not for me? So the expression, I say a lot, and I believe in it a ton. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And I generally go with I can. I think I can. And I believe in that, and I go with that instead of I can't. And I think it's important, people take that mentality on and take on the challenge.
Well,
the little engine that could. My mom read me that every night as a kid. Right?
We those kids you're working with are lucky to have you. It's certainly a great area to be involved in the game, and you have a lot to offer about things that didn't work for you, and passing that on to the next generation is super important, just like those people did for us and you did to me all those years ago. And Huff still is coaching in Syracuse and running the kids through the paces, and I work with a junior team down here in Jersey in the NAHL, which again is a blast, and learning new stuff from these kids every day. There's so many things they do that I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. And so watching the game evolve is great, and trying to find that sort of happy medium on all of these new things, I think is so important. So Shrimpy, Merry Christmas, pal. Happy New Year's. Awesome to have you on the show. I know we've gone back and forth. Do more videos when you have time. Your offensive videos that you were putting out for a while, it just gives people a sort of a look into your brain. And you, no matter how many games you played, 120 or 50 NHL games, and then a million pro games total, like you have a different brain, and you definitely do. And so when you share that with people on the internet, I think it opens people's eyes to things that even someone like me and Johnny were around the game every day, around the NHL every day, do not see it nearly like you do. So if you have time to get back to those videos, man, those things they're very educational and very eye-opening.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I will. I'll start popping them up. I'll tag you.
All right. Good. We'll show them on our show.
Listen, you're welcome on here whenever you want.
We'll put them on our show because they're fascinating, the way you look at spacing and offensive plays, and your brain works 3 and 4 steps ahead of, and most people's eyes they don't go to that. Yeah. So Merry Christmas, man. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time in a last second ordeal.
Oh, no problem, boys. Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for thinking of me. And we'll chat soon. I'll come back on if you guys want.
Awesome.
Thanks, Shrimpy. Appreciate it. Have a good one. That was awesome. Really cool. Really cool stuff.
Brilliant hockey guy. Like he is. Yeah. Like it's
almost an hour with us.
Different brain. He's got a different brain for this game, and it's good. It's good when you have someone like him who realizes, like, hey, there's non-negotiables, and then there's the creativity, and like marrying those things that will help generate good players for the next generation. So look, it's all good stuff. Look, we didn't intend to go this far, and like there were a couple of things I just want to point out quickly from last night before we move on to our worst team of the week from our friends at Out West. But let's start with Matvei Michkov and the Flyers and maybe the Penguins even. Like, I think the Penguins deserve a little bit of credit, man. They're above 500, and they're not that many points out of a playoff spot right now. which is kind of
they're 1 point back.
Which is crazy. And, I caught bits and pieces of that game last night, and like, they're defending really hard. Like, they may not be the most talented team on the ice.
They're slow.
And they are slow, but man, they defend hard and they defend well the way that they're playing right now. I mean, they're 6-3-1 over their last 10. And they're creeping their way above. And I did want to just give them a quick little shout out. And on top of that, Matvei Michkov, he has played 12 or less minutes 2 of the last 3 games. He hasn't had a point in 5. All of the Flyers fans that were coming for my throat when I said Celebrini and him are not on the same level, they're not on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In they're just not. Celebrini's now got 25 points in 25 games, another 2 assists last night. The way he defends, the way he plays in the neutral zone, his speed, everything about Celebrini.
He doesn't look tired ever.
Everything about Celebrini screams, best rookie. And I'm not saying Michkov is not a stud offensively, but Michkov is potentially going to find himself back in the stands. Because the last time they sat him for 2 games, he came out with his hair on fire. And I think John Tortorella is going to go back to Old Faithful with that decision, and he's going to find himself back in the press box here. It doesn't mean he's not having a great rookie season. The kid's numbers are undeniable, but everybody's been very quiet because I was getting ridiculed, and all that noise has really kind of subsided, and nobody wants to talk about it right now. So, other than that, Johnny, I think the Boston Bruins under Joe Sacco, I mean, the way that they've played since, they are back in a playoff spot. They're scoring a little bit against more.
Washington. I didn't see that game.
I mean, really well. Like, that was a good game. I mean, it was a tight game until the end. It really was. I mean, you're talking about 1-1 going into the third period, and then late in the third, the last 7 minutes of the game, Boston gets 2, and then they get the empty netter. So the score is a little bit deceiving. That was a big boy hockey or a big boy hockey game. I mean, you had a little bit of everything in that game, but ultimately Brad Marchand has taken his game to another level. Like, he's starting to look healthy to me.
What was the whole, have you seen Pasta after the game? I saw that clip circulating on Twitter. I didn't understand it, though, because I didn't see anything from that game. Like, did something happen to Pasta?
So I saw the second half of the game. I believe there's a potential injury.
Oh, okay. Upper body, Victor said.
And so he came out of the game, and then they asked if he saw him after the game.
Yeah.
How did he
I think
look?
Marshy said, I saw him in the shower.
He looks great naked. Yeah. Which is kind of funny.
He's unreal, man.
So,
Brad Marchand is so lovable.
Great personality. Absolute great personality. So those were a couple of the call outs I had from that. I still have a lot of belief in the Washington Capitals, but I gotta tell you, under Joe Sacco, the Boston Bruins just look different. They really do. I mean, their record, I think it's like 13-5 and something under Sacco now. Maybe 10-3. I saw it somewhere on the internet yesterday, but it's pretty good. Like, I'll commend Joe Sacco for the way that's going. And then Winnipeg is back, got it going on. They really do. I mean, they took their little slide and they cut it off. They didn't let it fester for 2 months. We took them out of the power rankings. We weren't feeling good about the way they were playing. They're back. They're back playing. I took them out of the power rankings. So I didn't feel like they were playing good hockey, and they've cut that off. And, they made Toronto, look like a team that wasn't ready to get their nose dirty and win puck battles throughout that game last night. I mean, every wall battle in that hockey game went to Winnipeg. Winnipeg actually looked like a faster team than Toronto. Like, how do you do that against a team with all that elite level talent? He really is.
Kyle Connor's unbelievable. But any other things from last night that you want to get to before we go into Out West, which will kind of lead into a conversation from last night?
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't see the Nashville game, but they're, I think, 3-0-1 in their last four.
Yeah.
You were at the Buffalo game, so you have a better opinion on that. I watched a very small chunk, maybe 7 or 8 minutes of the Chicago Minnesota game, so I really don't want to comment on it. I don't like bouncing around. I like staying in on a game for at least 2 of the 3 periods. So, I kind of did what I could as far as that. And as we get into the Outwest West team of the week, the New Jersey Devils
shit pumped.
Embarrassed
Shit
your
pumped.
team. And then their social media team embarrassed them on social media after the game. I mean,
hey,
go ahead.
I'm all for it, but yeah, you guys, you don't even need to guess because Buffalo won last night, so this one's easy. Our Out West worst team of the week, presented by Out West. Christmas is here, and if you're still searching for that perfect last-minute gift, think Out West. We're a company built on exceptional customer service, and here's the best part. All orders ship the same day from our warehouse, so place your order today, and we'll have everything in our power. We'll do everything in our power, to have it delivered by Christmas Eve, which is today. Hoodies, polos, quarter zips, you name it, we've got it. Out West is your one-stop shop for gifts that bring style and quality to everyone on your list. Don't wait. Give the gift of Out West. This season, our code is Cuppa, C-U-P-P-A, in all caps. And yes, the worst team of the week is once again the New York Rangers. And I don't even want to focus on the Rangers. I want to focus on the Devils because the Devils are a mean team. You can say the Rangers played like shit yesterday, but the Devils gave it to them from the start of the game, from puck drop. Brendan Dillon with the fight. Paul Cotter with a fight. I mean, I love that Vinny Trocheck did that, but
was it Carrick that fought Brendan Dillon?
Carrick fought Dillon.
All right.
And
so
Cotter
I just want to give Carrick credit because, like,
he's tough. Carrick is tough.
Yeah, but man, you're giving up a number of inches and a number of pounds. Like, I mean, Brendan Dillon is a tough customer. Not saying Carrick is not, but like, I mean, you go into that fight knowing you are going to take some vicious shots, and Carrick stood in there. But you're right. The Devils, man, where's their weakness? Where is the holes in the New Jersey Devils lineup? Like, I don't understand who's beating the Devils in 7 games.
I think Devils fans would say that they probably want one more top 6 winger. Like, I think that's what they would say they need. I don't know if I'm saying that, but I think Devils fans who watch all 82 games, like, that's what they're looking for. Because I think Palat hasn't really stuck in the top 6. Nason's been solid. He's more of a third line guy. I think Cotter's been up there a little bit too.
But
I think
Cotter, listen, you want to make sure you have Cotter in your bottom 6. Like, he's a bottom 6.
Well,
he's a high-end
like,
bottom 6 player.
Top 6 winger.
For sure. But man, you can't hate the depth.
Shutouts for Markstrom, 12 shots in each of those games. Only 12 shots.
Yeah, sometimes those are tricky though for goaltenders when they're not seeing a lot of action. They can be a little bit tricky, but look, you defend the house hard. You got to go through Brendan Dillon. You got to go through Kovacevic. You got to go through Pesce. I mean, I love that Pesce-Luke Hughes pair. Like, but that's their third pair. Imagine the embarrassment of riches on their back end when Pesce and Luke Hughes are your third pair.
I was messaging with Pesce a little bit yesterday because I wanted to get him on the show today. He's obviously with family. It's tough to get a current guy. It's their they have 3 days off. And I honestly felt bad even asking, but I know he likes our show and likes us, so I thought maybe we can get him on. But no, we were laughing that he got power play time at the end of that game too. Like, even Joe Micheletti was like, "Oh, like, good for Brett Pesce to be on the power play," and Pesce messaged me like, "Ha ha ha, I'm a PP specialist." Like,
I think he can play on your second power play though because he's got a hammer.
He's got a good shot. Yeah,
he has a heavy shot, slap shot, snap shot, wrist shot. It's heavy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can shoot the puck through goaltenders.
And the other thing I wanted to say from that game, like, listen, I am a Ranger fan. I hate a lot of Devils fans, but like, I have been a sneaky Devils support. I like watching them play. They're a fun team to watch, but I got to give their social media team credit yesterday because playing the video of Ranger fans celebrating when Jack Hughes went first overall so we can get Capo Caco, and then panning to Jack on the bench and seeing him laughing and smiling. And then in the post game, they asked Jack about it. And Jack was like, I think he said, "Yeah, I don't know if I was really laughing at that unless the camera caught me." And then everyone in the scrum was like, "Oh, the camera got you." And he just started laughing again. So
listen, that kid has fun when he plays hockey. Like,
I love Jack Hughes, man. He's my favorite player in the league.
Luke Hughes and Quinn Hughes, they don't look like they're having fun. I'm not saying they aren't, but you watch those two, they have these like crazy serious looks and, I've never seen Luke Hughes smile before, even when we've done player meetings with him for broadcast. But like, you watch Jack Hughes, he plays the game with visible joy on his face. He plays the game with visible emotion on his face. Even if he's angry, if he's happy, he's always laughing on the bench.
And he's a guy who beats to his own drum too, and has that like little cockiness and swagger.
And as he should. Look how good he is.
Yeah.
Look how good he is. But I mean, like, look at the ice time for defensemen on the Devils, right? You've got Dylan, who played about 17 minutes. Hamilton played about 18. Kovacevic 21:05. Pesce 19. Luke Hughes 20. And Siegenthaler 20. Like, I'm rounding.
Yeah.
When you can play 6 defensemen that consistently, and remember, Hughes and Hamilton are getting more power play time. Brendan Dillon's not on the power play. There was a bunch of power plays, like Lafreniere took his dumb penalty, and that costs 2 bench minors. Dumb. I mean, what a joke the New York Rangers are. Like, literal joke. Everything I said about them figuring it out this year, like, you could just flush that down the toilet. That is a lost group of puppies right there. But that back end for the Devils, man, that is some real balance. I mean, we're talking, like, when I praised the Vegas Golden Knights decor and said this is why they won, and look at how balanced they are, and they've got a bunch of puck movers that are paired with a bunch of heavy defenders. That's what I'm seeing with this Devils decor. You've got a balance of Hughes and Hamilton, and then Pesce's a little bit of a hybrid, and Kovacevic and Dillon play one way. Siegenthaler's like a hybrid. I mean, the mix is absolutely phenomenal. If you get saves, the Devils are they going to get the cup before the
Dude, they were my number one team on the power rankings last time we did it. I told you, like, this team is that good.
And they'll look to improve. Like, Tom Fitzgerald's not sitting on his hands.
And meanwhile, people still fucking go back to my putting the Devils on fraud watch from October 22nd and like say, how they doing now? And I've been the first person to praise the Devils. Like, I always praise the Devils. I've never said they've sucked. I mean, I guess that one tweet I did. But yesterday,
you say a lot of dumb shit on Twitter.
Yeah,
also, listen, if you get on the internet,
one more point I want to make,
6 hours a week, you're going to say some things that don't pan out.
Yeah, but one more point I wanted to make, because Luke Hughes got a lot of shit last year from Devils fans and nationally that he wasn't like ready for the NHL or wasn't an NHL player. And yesterday he put on a skating clinic in the offensive zone and played well in the D zone. But there was 2 or 3 sequences, I think in the third period, where Luke Hughes got the puck on the left side of the blue line where he plays on his point, went across the blue line, danced the blue, got around his checker, and went to the net untouched. It happened 2 or 3 times, I think, on 3 straight shifts, and I was like, "This guy is untouchable."
Listen,
it's untouchable.
He skates like Quinn. It's just he's a lot bigger and lankier.
Quinn's way shiftier though.
Yeah, like
Quinn, way more like straight.
Here's my point though: when you watch them, neither of them look like they're digging into the ice. They float on it. They float. It's so effortless and so smooth. Again, you're right. Quinn is smaller and a little more shifty, but Jay, I already said, like, I don't know if you heard us 2 minutes ago, Jay Miller, like, the Jets have dug themselves out of their little slide, and they put a bow on it a lot quicker than they normally do, and they have this slide. So they're 100%. When we do power rankings next week, they're back. I mean, there's no doubt about the way that they're playing right now. I never said fraud watch, by the way, Jay, unless you clipped it. I don't believe it.
Unless you have proof.
Unless there's proof, I don't believe you. But I might have, who knows? But no, we gave the Winnipeg some flowers the way that they played and the way that they've been playing. But with those 2 guys, man, it's so effortless. It's different because one guy's 6'2", 6'3", the other guy's like 5'10".
I think Luke's 6'2", yeah. Quinn is
6'2" versus Quinn being 5'10", so it's gonna look but just the effortlessness and it literally looks like they're an inch or 2 above the ice, the way that they just kind of beautifully float along when they move. And the one thing they do have in common, their ability to play lateral hockey along the blue line. I'd be hard pressed to find many other defensemen that can move laterally like those 2. There are some, there's just not many.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think, we talked about how good the Devils blue line is, how good Seamus Casey started the year, and he's still not getting a sniff.
Hell of an insurance policy. Listen, let him be in the minors and work it out for a year. Like, it's better for guys. It generally is better for guys. It's not a good league to learn in for a defenseman. It's just not. It doesn't mean everybody doesn't have to, but it's not. So with that, here's what I would like to say to you all. Tomorrow's show will be a pre-tape that we did, a Christmas special edition. Myself, Johnny, Tyler, and Frank, we did a little combination show. That'll come out tomorrow. I don't know exactly what time we're launching that out. It'll be in the morning. Thursday, we have a show that we will be posting that we did with James Van Riemsdyk. We spent an hour with him going through his career, talking to him about different things that he has going on, throughout his. And that'll be out 9 a.m. On Thursday, right? 9 a.m. Eastern. So that'll be Thursday. Tomorrow, I think it'll be out at noon. Give everybody the mornings with their families, to celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, people don't want to listen to us while they open up their presents.
Or if you're waiting for sundown to light those menorahs up to celebrate Hanukkah. So that's obviously right in our wheelhouse here on Morning Cuppa Hockey. Look, we really appreciate all you guys. Give us a like on today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. All of those things, super, super important. I know I say it almost every day, but that's how it's really important. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary show, which is January 2nd, I believe, is our 1-year anniversary show. So we will be with you, I think, what is it, Monday and Tuesday live next week, Johnny? Is that the plan for next week? So pre-tapes the next 2 days. We'll be with you Monday and Tuesday next week. Then obviously we'll be off for a day or two for New Year's Day. And then we're going to get rolling into the second half. So it's been a great fall, great winter start to winter, Johnny. We couldn't do it without you guys. What? I know you want to talk about what you did last night. I know.
And we got Bet365 still.
And we still got Bet365. So with that, Johnny, why don't you tell us about last night? Why don't you talk about Bet365? And then we got to go. I have a feeling I'm going to get in trouble here soon because we're about to get on the road here and do our whole family ordeal that we got to do today.
I also had a coffee and a water, and I'm going to pee in my pants. So I'm going to make this as quick as possible. And I know some of you don't need to know that, but I am who I am. So Bet365, we're actually going to look at a team that we did spend a little bit of time talking about today, the Columbus Blue Jackets, to make the playoffs at plus 1,600. Something like this with Laine, Colby. We've seen it happen before. It could galvanize a team, right? And I think that second spot in the wild card in the Eastern Conference is up for grabs. Right now, the Ottawa Senators have it with 38 points. The Penguins are right behind them with 37. And then Columbus and Philly are tied with 34. The Blue Jackets are only 4 points back of the Sens. And you never know, man. Something like this, Columbus can go on a little bit of a run. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen, right? It's probably not something that we see the odds at plus 1,600. It's probably not something that's likely to happen, but at plus 1,600, why not root for the Blue Jackets? What do you think about that?
Are you doing it? Are you going to put your money where your mouth is?
Probably not.
Okay.
But we had to give a bet today, and I thought that was an interesting line and good value.
I don't foresee them making the playoffs, but the only way to win money is to take a little bit of a risk and take a flyer. I mean, listen, I'm not, Mr. Gambler here, but when I do bet, it's usually against heavy odds because I want an opportunity to really make something. So Tommy T, I would the chat is now talking about your personal life, Johnny. We're almost at our second hour today.
Yeah.
And that's usually when things start to get twisted and personal. So
Rangers playoff chances, and I'm literally about to pee my pants.
Johnny's bladder, Johnny's dating life. Big Willie had a comment about your lack of action that you've been receiving in your personal life. I'm sure you have excuses and reasons why, and you're going to blame someone.
Just straight up getting ghosted right now.
Okay, so just straight up getting ghosted. So with that, Johnny boy, why don't you tell us what the jersey you're wearing is and what you were doing last night at UBS?
So I know we have a lot.
Why don't you stand up? You can't really see it with your mic.
I gotta pee.
Stand up. My God, you're embarrassing. All right. So why don't you talk a little bit about it?
There's nothing on the back. Also, I texted Shane Pinto last night to see if he'd come on today. He just answered me. What time would you need me to hop on? If I just say right now. No, I'm kidding.
Too late. I'm not staying.
We'll get Shane another time. But this jersey is HC Tel Aviv. So I was brought to UBS Arena last night by the IEHL, the Israel Elite Hockey League, which plays during the summer over in Israel. They have 8 teams throughout 8 different cities in Israel. But on March 23rd, a Sunday night, they rented out UBS Arena, and they're playing a game between their Jerusalem team, the Jerusalem Capitals, and HC Tel Aviv. So it's going to be a really cool night for the Jewish community. It's going to be an all-day event, red carpet kind of vibe, trying to get different kind of sponsors and Jewish organizations to come and celebrate the Jewish community, and just make it a really celebratory night with hockey and just overall good time. So if anyone is interested in going, let me know. You can ask me any questions, and I'll be promoting it probably over the next few weeks or so. But yeah, they gave me this jersey. It was very kind. And last night at UBS Arena was Jewish Heritage Night. So it was a pretty fun night.
That's a cool jersey. I need to get my hands. I'm not really a jersey wearer. Oh my God. Buckaroo's comment.
What? Whose comment?
Oh my God.
Oh jeez. Yeah. No political stuff, no war stuff, just Jewish people playing hockey.
It's pretty funny. I'm sorry. Anyways, so with that, Jonny, happy Hanukkah, pal. Enjoy time with your family. We love you all in the chat. Happy holidays for everyone in the chat. Buckaroo. That was the comment of the day. Jeez. It's not
you broke him.
I'm able to get thrown off by something like that. We love y'all. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. People will be out on the road with their families, including me with mine. So be safe. Enjoy everything. Hopefully Santa brings everybody lots of gifts. Jonny, I'm sure Hanukkah Harry will bring you something. / Karen, we know she loves you and you're still her baby. So you'll get something. We went long today. We hope you all appreciated it because we won't be live the next couple of days. And we'll talk to everybody again before the new year. Thanks for rolling with us.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.